It's thanks to Bob Byrne and his Baker Street essays. You'll find links to Bob's work in today's show notes, and it really is worth checking out. He writes extensively on his passion, Nero Wolfe. If you've never checked out Nero Wolfe, perhaps it's a good start. Nero is a New York detective, brilliant, obese, and eccentric. He lives in New York and is loath to leave his home for business or anything that would keep him from reading his books, tending his orchids, or eating gourmet meals prepared by his chef, Fritz Brenner. If that sounds like your cup of tea, you've got plenty to choose from, with 33 novels and 41 novellas and short stories. But back to our bread and butter. This essay is called Sherlock Holmes, Master Blackmailer. It should come as no surprise that those ne'er-do-wells who choose to confront Holmes in his Baker Street lodgings suffer very unpleasant consequences. Charles Augustus Milverton is just one villain who pays a steep price for his cheekiness. Milverton visits Baker Street in an attempt to conduct some business, albeit illegal and unsavoury business. Holmes and Watson attempt to wrestle a notebook from him by force. Milverton pulls out a gun and brandishes at the two, making it very clear he will shoot them. Since Watson is holding a chair with which he would gladly bash Milverton, the visitor is ready to meet force with even greater force. When Milverton smugly walks out the door in Baker Street, he's a marked man. He is soon dead. Holmes and Watson secretly watching a woman gun him down in his own study. Holmes made no move to prevent Milverton's death. For all we know, Holmes himself brought a gun on his burglary outing and was going to kill Milverton himself. This would explain his not wanting Watson to come along. This is explored in the next section. Threaten to shoot Holmes in his own sitting room, and you end up dead soon afterwards. In the Speckled Band, Grimsby Roylott confronts Holmes in a memorable Baker Street scene. When he storms out, he's already signed his own death warrant. Holmes whips a deadly snake back towards Roylott. The villain is dead. His own daughter conspires with Holmes to cover it up, and the incident is dismissed as a tragic accident. And the final problem, the infamous Professor Moriarty comes to Baker Street, later setting it on fire, and tells Holmes if the detective does not leave him alone, Moriarty will destroy him. Holmes even admits to feeling fear when the professor confronts him. How does Holmes solve the problem? He bets Moriarty away from London, ensuring that the professor will escape the police net, and then he throws Moriarty off a ledge into the base of a waterfall. Talk about taking matters into your own hands. It can be a very dangerous move for a villain to stop by Baker Street to threaten Sherlock Holmes in person, but Baron Groner learns in The Illustrious Client that even Holmes is not safe from Holmes. Gruner intimates that Holmes could suffer a fate similar to that than the French agent Lebrun, who was beaten and crippled by French criminals. By now, we know that Gruner is in trouble. Holmes is present when a former lover of Gruner exacts her revenge by throwing acid in his face. Coincidence? Possibly, but I distrust coincidence. Holmes tells Watson that Milverton is the worst man in London. For someone who seemingly knew about every type of depravity and ruffian in the city, that's quite a statement. We think he doth protest too much. Was Holmes really so disgusted by blackmail? Holmes informs Watson that he intends to burgle Milverton's house to obtain documents so compromising to Lady Eva Brackwell. Watson assumes that he will assist, but Holmes tells him, "You're not coming." Watson objects, and Holmes responds with, "You can't help me." Watson continues to insist, and Holmes, who has looked annoyed, gives in and claps Watson on the shoulder, looking to make the best of a bad situation. But why is it a bad situation? Holmes has already infiltrated the Milverton household by seducing Agatha, a maid. He must have been quite charming, since she became engaged to him after only a few meetings. Having secured the knowledge he needed, Holmes was ready to move forward. He intended to sneak into Milverton's house, kill him, steal all of the incriminating documents in the office, and then engage a second profession. Holmes would use the documents to secretly blackmail the victims, nicely supplementing his income as a consultant detective. Watson can only report Holmes's motives as they appeared to him. Were Holmes not shackled with Watson's company, a different story might evolve, such as the following. In addition to his first-class, up-to-date burgling kit, Holmes brings a gun. Perhaps the nickel-plated Jimmy is accompanied by a nickel-plated revolver. Holmes knows that the beast of a dog Milverton keeps is locked up by Agatha, who is expecting Holmes, codename Escott, for a late-night assignation. Sans Watson, he gains access to the house in the same manner recounted in the story, removing a pane of glass and reaching inside to open the greenhouse door. He silently crosses to a door, passes through it to another room, and enters a short passage. He listens carefully at the door, enters, and here events can follow one of two paths. Either Milverton is in the room, or it is empty. If Holmes heard more than one voice in the room, he would wait until only Milverton remained, or the room emptied. If Milverton is in the room, Holmes brandishes the gun and then knocks him unconscious. He opens the safe, takes out all the documents he can carry, secreting them about his person and or putting them in a pouch that he's brought for that purpose. All that remains is to kill Milverton, making it appear as though his death was a burglary gone wrong, or an affair decor with tragic consequences. If the room is empty, Holmes opens the safe, takes the documents as described above, and then makes a noise that draws Milverton into the room. He shoots them and stages the scene as above. Milverton is dead, and no one knows that Holmes now has all of the incriminating materials. He can stretch his blackmailing efforts out across years. With his fine reputation in community and his seemingly limitless contacts from the seedier side of London, he's perfectly situated to ensure that his own role remains unknown in this lucrative side business. If any Sherlockian can establish a plausible case that the Milverton affair occurred before the Great Hiatus, 1899, seems the most common belief. Perhaps the real enmity between Holmes and Moriarty sprang from the former running a criminal enterprise that rightfully should have belonged to the latter. Sherlockians have noted something Watson recorded Holmes saying in this case. Just before showing Watson his burgling kit, Holmes says, "You know, Watson, I don't mind confessing to you, I've always had an idea that I'd made a highly efficient criminal. This is a chance of a lifetime in that direction." But what about Watson? Shortly after that statement, the doctor tells Holmes he has rubber-soled tennis shoes and he can make a pair of masks out of black silk. Holmes replies that Watson has a strong natural turn for this type of criminal preparation. Once they have gained access to Milverton's study, Holmes sets Watson to guard the door. He is now the lookout. Caught in the excitement of their acts, Watson writes, My first feeling of fear had passed away, and I thrilled now with a keener zest than I ever enjoyed when we were defenders of the law instead of its defilers. He mentions the sporting interest of the adventure and adds, far from feeling guilty, I rejoiced and exulted in our dangers. With a glow of admiration, I watched Holmes unrolling his case of instruments and choosing his tool. This sounds like someone who's thoroughly enjoyed breaking the law. Having experienced the exhilaration of his naughty act, could Watson simply go cold turkey? Or knowing that the spark of illicit behaviour still smouldered in his breast, can we look at other events throughout the canon and perhaps see the faintest possibility that the spark was fanned into a flame and prompt Watson into action? Much has been written by others regarding Holmes' cavalier treatment of the maid, Agatha, and becoming engaged to her during his investigation. The Granada adaptation conveyed, in an understated manner, the devastating impact the deception had on her. However, I call your attention to Watson's curious response of the surprising news of Holmes' engagement. But, you say, Watson wasn't surprised by Holmes' engagement. That is a curious response. The exchange reads, Holmes, would you not call me a married man, Watson? No, indeed. You'll be interested to hear that I am engaged. My dear fellow, I congratulate to Milverton's housemaid. Good heavens, Holmes. I wanted information, Watson. Surely you've gone too far. Sherlock Holmes, who evinces no interest in romance or relationships with the female gender, tells Holmes, out of the blue, that he's engaged. I cannot imagine more shocking revelation by Holmes, perhaps if he admitted to being Jack the Ripper, or came back from the dead, but that's about it. Is Watson stunned, shocked, speechless, nearly faint? Nope, he starts to congratulate Holmes. I mean, really? Up is down, day is night, black is white, Sherlock Holmes is engaged, and Watson shows not one iota of surprise. I put this forth as the single most improbable incident in the entirety of the canon. Watson's response is completely inconsistent with the situation, unless Watson was aware that Holmes was presently on close terms with a female. Though he agrees that the detective is not the marrying kind, Watson's unsurprising acceptance that Holmes is engaged would explain if there was already a woman in the picture. Then Watson's most natural response would be to congratulate to Holmes. However, Holmes revealed it is intended as Milverton's housemaid, Agatha. Now Watson explodes with surprise and indignation. Good heavens, Holmes, the engagement is to the wrong person. Holmes explains that he needed information. Watson's "surely you've gone too far" is not about Agatha. Watson is referring to the effect his actions will have regarding his lady friend and their relationship. Holmes explains that he has gotten the information he needs and the ends justify the means. Watson then asks, but the girl, Holmes? Is Watson referring to Agatha, or is he asking about the mysterious lady in Holmes' life? Either is possible. Holmes turns the conversation to the weather and his burglary plans. Watson, taking the hint, lets the matter drop. Watson's lack of surprise at Holmes' engagement is understandable if he thought there was already a woman in Holmes' life. If we accept this premise, then Watson's subsequent shock when he learns it is Milverton's maid who Holmes has wooed rather than the other woman is perfectly logical. Speculation as to who the other woman could be is fodder for another time and place, although I, myself, will look differently at the Abbey Grange. The end. I hope you enjoyed that essay, and if you did, please like, subscribe. Until next time, bye bye.